we can have the video for a reference for you to come back and see some things, because I know sometimes with everybody being in different places with tech tools and all that kind of stuff, sometimes it gets a little confusing. And then some additional websites. One really big thing that I want from you guys in this room, as we go through the year, if you find that there are things, especially for classified staff, that you would love to see up here that is not there, please tell us. Because I can only put as much stuff up here as you guys let me know we need. So it's really, really important to me that whether you just tell me walking by or you actually email Amy or I or however, if there's something you want to see added in here, please let us know so that we can get it added in. And likewise, there's some flexibility that Amy and I are trying to build into the schedule this year to make ourselves a little more available to do some small group stuff so that we could maybe come by and help a group of paras or a group of the office staff all in one morning where it's not everybody else around, and just kind of for small group focus stuff. If that's interesting to you and there's specific things you want to see, like Google Docs or anything like that, just let us know and we'll try to see how we can best fit that in. So again, website will be up here. We're going to be talking about it a lot this year just to make sure that anytime you have questions, you should be able to go check there. And especially when it comes to things like Infinite Campus and School Loop, we're going to be posting things in this how-to section, like how do I get logged in, how do I reset my password, some of the more common questions that you might see. Okay? So, a couple things I wanted to point out here on the homepage. There are a couple of places here that I think it's easy to overlook. I know when I first started here, I did not realize how many things were actually shoved into our homepage that were tools for teachers. Amy's done a really good job. This need help with online tools. This section here, if you click on that, there's a bunch of little things for like help with Infinite Campus, help for School Loop. And some of this is going to get moved into our PD website as well. But in the meantime, that's a really useful link to get to. But it's important to note, you'll see there's portals here for Infinite Campus. That's for students. You can log into that, but the view that you're going to see is very different than if you're clicking the link to Infinite Campus down here. So just be careful with that if you're using these links. My recommendation with all of them is once you get to the right one, the link for Infinite Campus or School Loop or whatever, just bookmark them in your browser.
One more thing to add about that online tools help. If you have students that don't know what to do and you don't know who to direct them to, that is one place that you can direct the students to. So keep that in mind. If they're having questions, if they have trouble with online tools, that's the place. It's mainly set up in that section because it's for parents and students.
Yeah, so again, I would say always have them look there first before they go try to hunt Amy down or something. Not to say they can't come ask her, but that's always going to be there depending on Amy's schedule. She may or may not be in the office, or Twan. We know he's always super busy. So anyway, just to give you the heads up with those things. And then for lab sign up, you'll notice as the year goes on, the staff resources section, I'll give you a heads up, over the next few weeks, we're going to be eliminating some of those links or consolidating some of them. Nothing that's up there is actually going to disappear. It just may get relocated into the PD website, or we're going to look at the forums about trying to find a way to clean it up so that it's easier to find some of them, and so that the teachers know that they're there so that they don't have to ask Linda 18,000 times, myself included, where do I find this form? Because things first, I want to get a really basic explanation of Google Drive, because I know there's a lot of confusion among all of our staff that a lot of times people think Google Drive is really just intended as, oh, that's where all my Google Docs go, which is true, but it's a lot more than that. Really what Drive is you can think, Amy gave a really good description yesterday. There's this, think of Google Drive as like a planet, and Google Docs is one city on this planet, and Google Spreadsheets, and there's all these other little pieces to it, but really the most useful thing that a lot of people probably aren't using this for, you can actually use Google Drive to store all of your files. Whether they're Google related or not, it can store all of your stuff. The only reason it's nice is because every person who's an employee, I'm pretty sure every single person has a Google Drive account associated with Google, and you have unlimited storage. If you were to get that from Dropbox, that costs about $100 a year. So it's a pretty useful resource. One thing I always recommend to people, you can use that in all of this My Documents folder stuff and things being stored, you can store everything in Google Drive. And I think on every computer that you should have it installed, and down here at the very bottom, you have this little icon. There's two things you'll see. If it's lit up, the three colors that you see here and everything's filled in, that means it's working and it's connected and everything's fine. If it's grayed out, it's indicating that it's not connected to the internet, which it still opens like a regular folder, but it doesn't sync everything so that you can't see it from one computer to the next. But to get to it as a folder, all you have to do is go in here and open Google Drive folder, and then it works just like any other folder that you would use in Windows. It'd be, hey, you can put stuff in there the same as you would anything else. The only difference is, what happens is when you put stuff in here, this little program that's running in the background takes whatever you store in this folder and makes a copy of it somewhere in Google's massive store of servers. So that anywhere else you are, whether it's online or you're using this application on another computer, you can get access to those files. But one common misconception that people say is, I don't use Google Drive because if the internet goes down, then I lose the files. If I'm working on my laptop and I put it in this folder, I don't need to be online to open it back up. Because again, all it does is makes a copy of it somewhere else. The original that I made still stays here. So you don't need to be online to get access to those files. Now the files that you create, like Google Docs and some of those, that's a different story. But again, just as a basic, and then at the end here, we'll have some time so that if you guys have more specific questions, we can go into some more. Yeah?
So, I've never seen the Google Drive on my favorites before, so I'll have to figure that out. But you're saying once that's there, do I still have to drag it from desktop or wherever I have it saved down to OneDrive so it copies it, or does it automatically?
Into Google Drive? Yeah, so you have to actually put it in the Google Drive folder. Now, a lot of times what I would say is a lot of people save all their stuff in My Documents. As a habit, if you just start saving here instead of My Documents, it's the same idea. The only difference is instead of all of your stuff getting saved on one computer in Twan's office, it gets saved in Google's. So the idea is, as we experienced this summer, unfortunately, it's possible for our servers to go down. All of Google's servers will never go down. I mean, it would be catastrophic world event. So it's a lot safer here, and you have a lot more features accessible through
We can
this
just
one.
drag it down.
Yeah, you just need to drag it in, and you can create shortcuts on your desktop to make it easier. And I can help with that kind of stuff if you need it.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want it to sync, it's got to be in this folder, and you have to be connected to the internet.
And if your view doesn't look like Brad's view, if you don't have like the little googly sign down at the bottom for, you don't know where all of these things are, we'll totally tell you where, we can help you one-on-one. We'll
Yeah.
let you know. Yeah.
And I heard someone say OneDrive, but is OneDrive different
That's
than
different.
Google Drive?
OneDrive is like Microsoft's version of Google Drive. So every company kind of has their own little cloud storage.
Right.
You want Google Drive, that's where we have all of, our unlimited storage. We don't pay, it's just part of our Google
Right.
Apps for Education. So that's where you want to save your stuff.
Yeah, and again, we all have a OneDrive account too. It's a little more complicated, but you don't have unlimited storage there. So Google Drive is a little safer place.
Oh,
So,
and one last thing.
Mhm.
You can save any kind of documents into Google Drive. They don't have to be Googly. They don't have to be Google Docs or Google Sheets. They can be PDFs. They can be image files. They can be anything. Those can also go into your Google Drive folder. That doc.
it could
Yes,
be anything.
Word docs.
Anything you can save on your computer can be saved in that Drive folder.
Yeah,
And the
Excel
thing is-
files, PowerPoint presentations, all of that stuff can go in there.
You can access it as a folder like you see here. Once it's saved and it's done its thing and talked to Google and it's been saved online, if you go to drive.google.com and then you log in with your FUHSD Google account, everything that is stored in that folder I just showed you, you'll see here. And you can access it by opening it from online. So that means like from my cell phone, I can get all this stuff. So if I'm on the road somewhere and I wanted to look at a document, not that any of us ever want to work from home, but if we had to, it makes it available in a lot of other places by putting it there too.
So if that confused you, that idea of like what path did Brad take to get here, we can also help you with that. Just helping you figure out what's the best path for you to get here fast. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I use the app for the iPad and iPhone. It's just way easier.
It
way
is.
simpler. I mean, I know how to use this other one, but it's just way easier to use the app once you figure it out.
pretty common for me. I'll put files in Google Drive on my computer, but 90% of the time I end up accessing them from my phone.
Big stuff, and use it off your computer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if
absolutely.
you're walking around campus, you're not gonna be walking around with your laptop. You'll probably have your mobile device, and you can access all of this stuff from there too.
Yeah, and then the nice thing is too, again, for some of the pairs, I know sometimes you guys are always in and out, and you're never in one place very long. It is kind of nice to be able to have this mobile side of things for you. So the next thing that I'm gonna do is we'll go into Infinite Campus for just a minute, and Julie, I'm gonna have you log in so that it doesn't look like my view, if you would. A couple of things that I do want to point out when we get in here is showing you really how to find information about any student. Common thing that we get, I've heard this from teachers and non-teachers alike, that what if I don't have a student anymore and I want to check up on them, right? Or can I see any student in Lynbrook? And the answer is yes, it's just may not be as obvious as you think. If you look where she's looking here, that little search bar, by the way, if you open up Infinite Campus and it doesn't look like this, which is pretty common, if you open up Infinite Campus and it looks like, can you click on campus instruction for me?
Yes.
There you go. If you open up IC and it looks like this, which a lot of people do because last year Infinite Campus opened up this new setup, and it kind of comes up in this view. The little window panes in the upper right hand corner, you could click it again for me. The little window panes up here, you can go to Campus Tools, and it gets you back to this view where we can find all of the students. Campus Community is something, you probably won't go there very much, but if you want to see the announcements and things that the parents see in their Infinite Campus portal, you can kind of see a lot of those announcements there, but usually we get them in emails as well, so it's not quite as, not usually quite as valuable as the other two views. So in the Campus Tools view, again, if you click on search, you can search any student. Okay, so you type in the last name of the student. If it's a really common last name, you can type in the last name, comma, space, the first letter of their first name or whatever it may be, and you can get any of them, any student to show up. Again, you don't have to have this student on your caseload, or you don't have to know it. Anything is there. And some things that I like to use these for: contacting parents. All of the parents' contact information is in there, assuming that it's up to date and accurate. Siblings, find out if they have siblings that have either graduated or are currently in the school. That all shows up in there. But finding that student information is nice. It also shows their schedule. Can we pull up any student at all?
Grace Park.
She's
There we
actually
go.
viewing.
So once we have the student pulled up, we can see all their demographic information here. And then you can also look at, you can look at any of their family information, cell phone numbers, email addresses, all that stuff is there. And by the way, just before I go forward, for those of you who are using Infinite Campus pretty regularly, is this the same view that you have, or does yours look different?
Mine's different, but I have the admin one.
Okay, you have the admin side.
That's a different one. 'Cause I
Yes.
Yeah.
Julie's in all people, she's not in student, so.
Yeah.
mine
Well,
goes
so,
up.
but I'm in Tim's account right now. This is Tim's
Oh,
view, so this should be what
oh.
most of you can see.
Okay.
Right, that's what I was gonna say,
Yeah.
that Julie probably has more rights than.
Yeah,
I
well,
think
she can log in as anybody, so she can see it however we need her to see it, except for Dave. She's got superhero powers in here, right? So with Infinite Campus, these are the things I would say for your all's sake. You can always find, once they've been uploaded, because I know it takes a little bit of time, you can always find the students' IEPs on Infinite Campus. All of pretty much any data that you would need. So to find the student IEPs, if you're not familiar with how to find them, these are, we say it breaks the 2-click rule. If you have to click more than twice, you'll never find it. But once you have the student pulled up, if you click on student information and then go to special ed and then click on general, once you click on general, it will pull up any caseload information, any documents that may be associated, IEP related, so that you can find any of those documents that you're looking for. So if you want to find classroom accommodations for a kid, any of the health information. So if a kid has a medical condition, all of that information is also going to show up here, which is really useful, especially in an emergency if something happens in a classroom. Yeah.
So, what you were saying, on the top by their name,
Uh-huh.
there's those flags. It'll say special ed,
Right.
health condition, things like that. So you don't have to
You just click
go
that.
through everything. If you see it up there, that's a quick shortcut. It'll tell you
You'll see the case
EpiPen,
manager.
Yeah.
all of that. Then when you want details, then you go where
Right.
that says.
And the other thing too, and I don't know for sure when or if this is gonna work, but I was talking to Ann the other day and she's working with the district office to get it so that instead of having to click through the 12 links and buried system, once you hover over that special education flag at the top, they're trying to get it set up right now, so just hovering over it automatically pulls up the IEP,
No,
which should make it faster, yes.
Can I explain that? So what's gonna happen is not on that special ed flag,
Uh-huh,
but teachers, when you pull up your roster and then you have all those lists of flagged kids, then if you hover on that, the summary of that student's special ed needs, the accommodations.
gotcha.
Yeah. And
That's
I-
good to know.
That's what happens.
That's good to know. Thank you for clarifying that, because that's really
Case
helpful.
manager comes up right on the
I
section.
think got that up now
Yeah.
already. Yeah.
The case manager shows up, and if this kid had a health condition, there'd be another little star next to the special ed flag, that shows the health condition.
Right.
So, before we go to look at anything school loop related, does anybody have any Infinite Campus specific questions? Yes.
I wanna know our district ID, so we can be able to log on, and, you need the district ID number.
To be able to log on to Infinite Campus?
To start off doing it.
So
We
that
go to
should,
The mobile app,
Yeah.
As soon as, I can get into IC on my phone. As soon as you have your username and password that you can get onto any computers, that's the same username and ID to get you into
Okay, so I
IC.
should probably see it on here.
It's confusing.
yeah, and the other thing
It's
is
confusing
one thing I
because
will
you
point
think
out,
it's separate, but
if you're
it's
getting,
that way. It's
if
a
you're
single
getting a
server.
weird,
Single-
if you're getting a weird feedback that says you need more specific information from your district or things like that, usually that's because you're at a link for Infinite Campus that's not FUHSD specific.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like, there's a generic all of Infinite Campus login that just gives you info about the program and software. That's not the link that you're wanting to get to.
That's
So you
not
just
our
have the
link.
wrong access. You
Okay.
need the one that goes into the
The
district one.
easiest way to get on it is go to a school webpage,
Mhm.
link on that one,
Okay,
bookmark it.
Yeah.
And then the password that you use to open up your regular email,
yeah,
it should be linked. If it's not, you don't have access yet, and they'll get it to you, Juan will get it to you.
okay,
Yeah.
We don't have to go through separate passwords, separate things anymore.
okay,
It's all set up through our district now.
so it should be pretty easy.
Yeah, and the good thing with it is the password, they use a unifying password system, so your school loop, your Infinite Campus, your Google account, all of those things, if you change your password, it changes them everywhere. So it's the same password no matter what. So changing it in one place changes it in every place.
Just one more thing about that password change. Sometimes you guys have issues with passwords, like if you're at home and there's something that happened with servers. The best place to change passwords is not through like the password reset tool. The best place, if you have to change a password, come to school and change the password here. If you do need to use that reset tool, make sure that you register if you haven't done so, and especially for you, if like new teachers, new staff, whoever, make sure that you enroll in that password reset program. It's kind of an application that will allow you to reset off campus.
And, as of last year, I don't know if it's changed, Bill, maybe you know, as of last year, we could not reset our password unless you were physically on a desktop at school.
It's true. You know what? Honestly,
They-
just
Yeah.
Yeah.
don't deal with the headache. Do it at school.
Because I know
Yeah.
I have it connected to my phone.
And
Do it
honest,
here
And
on
you
our
have to do
network.
it
yeah,
here.
do it here
So
on
you
our
have to
network.
do it on my phone app.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to do it at school
Yeah.
on school computers for best results
Yeah.
anytime. You just use our school
Yeah.
computers. If you have technical problems at home, instead of doing that whole password reset tool, I would say, get a hold of Tuan or Tom.
Yeah.
That's what I had to do this summer. There was
Yeah.
some funky stuff with mine, and I just called him, and thankfully he was around. Usually like here and there and everywhere. Okay.
Oh,
Wayne, Derek.
Lives in your house, 2 houses from where?
That kid does?
One more, just that one.
There you go. So at the top there, you can see the special education and health conditions. So you can see them both. And again, you should receive this information in emails if you're working directly with the kid in any capacity. You'll get emails about this stuff, but again, we get so many emails, sometimes it's just hard to find that stuff, so it's a good place to go.
Also, if there's a legal alert on a student, that will show up there too, there'll be a
Sure.
flag for that as well.
One thing I will say, we do have the ability to look at some general notes for the students, but it is worth noting that like Jose and Eric have different places that they can access that have more detailed information. So like a student that gets called into the office for some reason or some issues happen, some of those things we won't be able to see, but Jose and Eric can. So if you have a concern about a student that I found, like I've had this issue like academic dishonesty. Like I've had a kid who, oh, he just looked at his neighbor's paper. I don't want to go through the process of getting a big write-up or some awful thing. So I'll call Eric ahead of time. Hey, just double check, make sure this kid doesn't have a history. Oh, this is the 4th time this has happened. I'm going to write him up for real now. So those kind of things are always worth checking because they do have the ability to see things. And I think the guidance counselors can all see those notes as well.
They see most, I think, yeah.
So, but anyway, it's worth to knowing that they do have visibility of stuff that most of us don't have access to see. Okay?
And when you have something that needs to be reported, go to an AP, Eric or I, because we have access to be able to edit and put stuff in. So like Brad was saying, if we don't record it, the incident didn't exist. And then when they do it again and again, if we don't have a recorded incident, then it didn't happen before. So it can be documented in 2 ways, as a note or as a discipline issue. And just bring it to Eric, myself, or an AP, and we'll get it in there for you.
Okay. So because we're kind of, oh, go ahead.
Oh, just if everybody has access to different queries that pull data out of the database, and you can make your own as well, under ad hoc reporting, where the cursor is, you can find some that you already have access to, and everybody will have different ones, and you can certainly play around and try and write your own. And the worst thing that's gonna happen is you try to write your own, and it doesn't work, you'll get no data. You can't break the database by trying to extract the data.
And some of these things are really good to just kind of look around and explore because you'll find some stuff that you didn't know was going to be interesting to you. And usually that's how I find a lot of the things that are here.
You can ask Julie for data. Julie's really good.
Julie can
Yeah.
get it. So I'll open it up. Does anybody have any? Go ahead.
Just in general, if you have questions about passwords, I can help with that part. If you have questions about Infinite Campus, I think Julie is probably the best person to go to about questions about that. For School Loop, Brad is a good resource. You know, there's lots of different people around campus, you know, word of mouth, just pass it on if, you know, that's just good to know.
So because we're low on time, does anybody have any other questions like related to any of the stuff that you wanted to ask real quick before we try to wrap it up because we ended up going a little longer than I intended, which is totally fine. No? Okay, the biggest thing I'll encourage you then is really, like I said, throughout the year, Amy and I are working really hard to change the way that we do the PD side of things so that we can be more available. And the intention for that isn't to create sessions necessarily like you've seen in the past in menu days, but more to say, hey, just so that you know, on this next coming Wednesday, it's PLC day or whatever it may be. And if it's PLC day, we're going to try to be completely open and available on those days so that if you notice that your group really, there's a tool of any kind, Excel, whatever it may be, give us a heads up. Say, hey, you know, we love a little additional help on this specific thing so that we can have a day to get something put together. And then during those PLC times, we'll find a place wherever's best for everybody to meet with you, to help you with those. Because again, I think a lot of times in the past, and I'm very guilty of this myself, a lot of you guys get flooded in with teachers and about 10% of the info that comes out is really useful and the other 90 are like, okay, I just wasted my morning. And we really want to try to find the best way to avoid that. And really we think the best thing that we could do is really just to be a resource for you to let us know what you need. And the more that you let us know, the more we can really try to help you out. And again, like I said, even on those mornings, if we need to come to you to make it helpful, we can do that. But just let us know what stuff you need.
And we'll probably be putting together a form that will be available on the PD site that will just say, hey, what training would you like? So you don't have to like have a consensus among the group to figure out what training you actually need, but it's just a good place to start. So you don't have to like get together as a group and decide. So the form will be there on the PD site.
Let me double check something to make sure. So our next one is at 9, we're done at 9:30. So we do have about 10 minutes left for this first rotation. So if there's questions you guys have, or if you want to look at mobile or talk to each other for a little bit, I'm going to leave it open. Maya and Julie are here to help us. So if there's questions, you're like, I don't want to ask this dumb teacher because he doesn't know what I have to go through. I get it, trust me. We have him here to help. So please feel free, questions about anything at all. We intentionally left this last 10 minutes or so that we can answer any questions that you guys may have or help with anything that we can.
We rotate down, correct?
With that?
We rotate down.
Yeah, so from here, you're all going to go to the auditorium.